What is up, everyone? Welcome back. Today's build is the HG Pharact from the Witch from Mercury. This project is part of a local group build which draws inspiration from Finnish sniper Simo Hayha, aka the White Death. Our goal is simply to build a kit with a sniper and paint it in winter camo. I went with the Pharact because I think it has a uniquely sinister look that fits with this group build. I am sponsored by ShowMeWhatYouBought.com, a community-driven store for all your supplies and gunpla kits. Check out the link below to check their inventory. This was supposed to be a healing build for me after doing 3 master grades. Therefore, my only aim was to repaint it, no new panel lines or added surface details. And for the most part, it was. I did try to contain myself from doing more than that. I ended up extending the neck and the torso because I thought the kit looked janky with long limbs and a relatively short torso. All in all, I added a couple of millimeters of height. Last bit of modification is adding a cape from the 30 minutes missions optional set 14. I decided to go with the route of magnets and was determined to do so. I made a mold for the shoulder that could hold the magnet and modified the attachment point on the capes to hold magnets. After sanding everything, I was ready to prime. I used Mr. Primer Servicer to prime everything in partially assembled form to be more efficient, as this step will mostly be used to check the surface prep, especially in the few modifications I added. The primed surface showed gaps from the UV putty shrinking. This is the first time I used this particular putty, so I wasn't sure what to expect. To fix this, I used black CA glue and used an accelerator to harden it immediately before sanding until the surface is flat. I proceeded to disassemble and paint every piece starting with the frame. The visible joints were painted with a dark gray color and more hidden frame parts were painted with an ice silver metallic paint. I also painted the details under the shell units with this paint before spraying a layer of clear fluorescent paint. I masked these fluorescent sections with the included stickers because they already have the exact shape. Then I resprayed the surrounding area with ice silver again. Just spraying metallic silver wasn't enough to mask the overspray of the fluorescent paint, so I ended up having to repaint the area black first before the metallic paint. This part I was not able to record. After that, I masked the silver parts before proceeding with the next part, painting the armor. I decided to use 3 shades for the camo pattern, a white color, a gray, and a dark gray color. In truth, this was the first time I did a camo scheme. My mistake was not testing things out on the spoon first, which I recommend if you try something like this. I started with the dark gray. I painted every armor piece. I used pre-cut camo masking tape and taped together parts that fit together like the thighs and forearms so they have a continuous pattern. Then I painted on the gray and masked again after the gray had cured. After that, I sprayed the final color white. With this process, I learned it's best to spray multiple thin layers to avoid pooling of paint around the masking tape, creating a raised edge. And peeling off the masks to see how the colors look next to each other really got me excited to see how everything will look at the end. A layer of gloss top coat came next as prep for decals. But before that, I painted the coat cape with off-white in a slightly darker gray, so subtle that I don't think the camera can really capture the effect it has. I used generic caution decals in gray color. The gray was perfect because I could use it over the white paint but also over the darker gray and still have enough contrast for legibility. I decided to weather this build starting with Mr. Weathering color over the glossed parts. And as you will see, this yields a very fine streaking effect that I think I will use more on future weathered projects. After I was satisfied with the first weathering step, I gave every armor piece a non-metallic painted frame and joint a matte top coat. I assembled the kit partially to make the next weathering step more consistent between adjacent parts. I added some minor chipping using a sponge and German black brown. I concentrated the chipping around the edges and tried to keep it as random as I could and very sparingly over the center of the pieces. Moving on to the base, I used a round cork coaster and a wooden plaque. I had a leftover rock from the Dynamis build and decided to cut a portion of that to be a giant rock over my base. Then I mixed plaster, paint, glue, Sculptamold, and water and covered the area around the rock and made it uneven for a more natural look. I sprinkled little small rocks and ballast like ice cream sprinkles over my rocky road and then added coarse turf to look like shrubs. To really get the scale of a 1/144th giant mobile suit, I added a 1/150th scale soldier. It's close enough in scale that this soldier losing half a millimeter won't be too noticeable in its current state. Like the rocks in the Dynamis build, after priming them black, I added a zenithal highlight on the rocks and the soldier. Then removed the soldier as I will hand paint him later. I started building up the colors of the terrain with my airbrush and then moved on to Mr. Weathering colors to refine them. Some white on the rocks in the recessed areas looks like a convincing snow. After 24 hours to let everything dry, I added in the snow over most of the terrain. Not the best looking snow, but it's something I can work on a future project. I've already done more than I set out to do as a healing build, so it's time to move on. With the base done, time for final assembly. Thank you for watching up to this point and let me know what you think of this white Pharact in the comments below. I enjoyed this more simple project after the last 3 builds. This has definitely re-energized me for the next complex project. Like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you again, and see you all in 2025.